Well, first off, thank you. Thank you, Maine Women's Network. It's a treat to be here. It's a treat to be talking to like-minded women. We all have the same issues. We all struggle and deal with balance issues, and that's the subject tonight. I want to thank Judy for inviting me and the Maine Women's Network for inviting me. And I call it tonight, Welcome to the Corner of Happy and Healthy. Happy and Healthy, which is our slogan for tonight. It's also Walgreens Pharmacy slogan, right? Now, a little thing you need to know about me, because most of you don't know me at all. I watch no television. And I don't know why that is, but I just don't. So I was called in at my house by my husband to watch something, I don't know, a week or so ago. And what he called me in to watch was a Walgreens commercial. And that's the only reason I know that we're going to call this tonight, Welcome to the Corner of Happy and Healthy, which I just thought was a fabulous tagline. As some of you know, I relocated to Maine 2.5 years ago. And the reason for my move to Maine was to have more balance in my life. So it's interesting that I'm going to be speaking on balance. Having focused most of my time on my career and my family for most all of my lifetime, I was finally in a place where I was able to control what I call my paid work, which then gave me a chance to focus on my community activities, which I'll tell you about, and my fun activities, which everybody needs a little fun in their life. So I checked out several nonprofits when I moved to this area, several organizations, and I was trying to find a place where I could find a good fit between my talent and my energy and what I like to do. And a former mentor of mine, actually a guy who lives in Colorado, told me I should check out SCORE. Now, for those of you who don't know SCORE, it's a National Association of Volunteers with a mission to grow successful businesses across America, one business at a time. So how many people have heard of SCORE? Oh, fabulous. We have 32 certified mentors over in our Portland office, ready to assist anyone for face-to-face counseling for free. We also do low-cost workshops. We do them, we have one going on tonight, starting your own business. The beauty of taking a SCORE workshop, and Judy took one the other day, is that they're generally small and personalized for the group that's in the room. So it's not a college lecture. You really get a chance to get your situation solved for why you came for the workshop. It's interesting as I look around the room. There are business resource partners of SCORE in the room with Gigi Guyton and Women Work in Community. There are former clients in the room, and they don't have to raise their hand, current clients of mine. There are former workshop groupies, right? They're here. So for all of you who don't know SCORE, someone at your table probably does. My final pitch for SCORE is on becoming a volunteer. You're all busy women. I can appreciate the busyness in your lives. I don't know all of you, but I can appreciate the the busyness. As women, we're born busy, right? We're just born busy. If any of you have business background, and it sounds like each one of you do, always know that SCORE is looking for volunteers. We're always looking for people who want to make a difference in a business person's life. So after we get done tonight, if you want to talk to me about becoming a volunteer, I would love to have that conversation with you. We have 6 women in our chapter. That's it. Only 6. And we have 34 men. So we're building women one at a time. Everyone that's in the chapter that's a woman works full-time or part-time. I have never been able to tap into an older woman who's retired. So all of the women that are with us are busy, active women, so you would feel at home there. So we're always seeking a few good women, and if you have interest, let me know. But let's get to the subject. The subject tonight is finding life balance. And it's interesting, as I hear everyone go around the room, we have, what, 4 life coaches here? 4 life coaches. They probably collectively know more than I'm ever going to know. But I'll tell you what you're going to hear tonight is my story. Just my story. For 30 years, I stumbled and struggled and eventually found some semblance of harmony and a semblance of balance in my life. But I've learned that balance is internal, and there really isn't a one-size-fits-all for all of us on how to live our lives. How to juggle the wife, the mother, the businesswoman, right? It's a juggling act. I'm going to share what's worked for me, and my hope is that there may be a nugget or two in there for you. We'll see. At the end, we'll have time for a short Q&A in case you have some comments. We've obviously got a lot of talented women here that might want to say something about balance when we're done. So my formula was really simple. Tune in each and every day to each role that I'm keeping in the air and figure out which one needs to be the focus. As a working mother, I juggled a corporate career, 2 children, a husband, community service, and a life. And I'm very certain that all of you have been juggling the same 4 roles that I signed up for. It just goes with the territory. So here's what we're going to take a look at this evening. I'm going to talk to you about 3 strategies which I have found effective in finding my own true north. And next I'm going to focus on what I call the 3 Ps, which are the keys to getting through my daily existence and maintaining my sanity, and I still use them today. And those 3 Ps are priorities, perspective, and passion. Every day I start my day with that. We'll talk about that. And then finally I'm going to share 9 tips. I thought I had 10, but I only have 9. So it's 9 tips. And they work for me as well now as they did as I accumulated them in my years. So here's the essential question, right? There's only one essential question. Can you have it all? Right? And here's my answer. Yes, but not all at the same time. That's me. Now, Oprah said, I've learned that you can't have everything and do everything at the same time. So she essentially kind of sees it the way I do. I believe you can have it all, you just can't have it all at the same time. So we're going to talk about the choices and the struggles you make to figure out what works for you. So before I start, how many folks sitting here tonight are between 20 and 30 years of age? Okay, Patrick. All right, and Casey. All right, there's a reason none of them are here. You know why? They're too busy. It's not that they don't want to hear the message. It's not that they're, as young women, struggling with life balance issues. They're too busy to be here. How many people are here between the ages of 30 and 40? And of those hands are up, how many have children? Okay, so this was a choice to be here tonight, right? It's a choice that means you're not with your family on a working night, assuming you work today. So again, there's a reason that group isn't well represented here tonight. Women are too darn busy between the ages of 25 and 40 to come out and talk to other women about life balance, which is why we have all these life coaches, right? But you don't really figure out you need a life coach till you get a little older. So if you know someone that's struggling with balance, if you know someone who's 25 or 32 or just had their first child, remind them that they need to take a breath, because they're not taking a lot of breaths. They're too busy to take breaths. So as I think about the subject of finding balance, I'll offer 2 observations. There's never enough time in our lives, regardless of our age, right? You know, you'd like to say, well, you know, the day I turn 50, there'll be tons of time in my life. But if there's any women here over 50, and I'm sure there are, do you have tons of time? You do not. So it really doesn't matter. The good news is technology has been a huge enabler and given us tools to manage our lives more efficiently. The bad news is that we have no downtime, right? We're accessible 24/7, right? Something's tweeting, something's beeping, some reminders going off. So we all have the same 24 hours, and it's really not a race to the finish line. So my observation is the goal is the journey, not the destination, right? You know, these are these kind of platitudes we call out, but since I have you here and you have to listen, all right, I'm going to say it. Remember it. The goal is the journey, not the destination. The second observation, Women are master jugglers in life. We're the emotional nucleus for our families and our loved ones. We are the doers in our community and our churches. We're the go-to overachievers at work, right? And the reality is there's little time or energy left for ourselves. And sometimes we feel like our days are spent on a treadmill and we are tired, always tired. Anyone ever feel like that? Just me. You know, coming here tonight, I had a busy day. I had new clients today. You know, you always want to be really on your toes for new clients. And I said, night is not my time to shine. I do all my workshops in the morning, sharp as a penny. So here it is, 7:15, and I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed right here, right now. There's a reason for that. It's called focus. We'll get to that in a minute. But let me take you back. If we step back more than 25 years ago, that's when the term first came out, work-life balance. It's actually a term that came from the UK. And it was a phrase to describe the balance between individual work and a personal life. So in 1986, I was a working mom with a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. I was also the family breadwinner. As a traditional boomer, I went to work for a global industry leader, not just a place to work, but a remarkable employer that believed in continuous improvement for its 50,000 worldwide employees. And up until the year I turned 52, I worked for the same company. Each time I turned a difficult challenge into a success story, I felt like an agent of change. So I started to teach myself that change was good. Heck yes, I said, I can figure my way into figuring it out. Was it hard? Of course it was hard. But along the way, I learned how to juggle and ultimately balance my life in a way that made sense to me. I kept turning down assignments that required me to move. And that really slowed my career path. Because I wanted it all, but I wasn't willing to move for my job. So in the 80s, that was a difficult choice to make because most men were in a position where they were accepting every opportunity that came their way. So instead, I took assignments that required me to travel during the week. So most of my career, I traveled when my kids were young and when my children were older. And I clearly recall, because I tried to be the perfect mom, spending Sundays making meals so that my family would have, I see heads nodding, home-cooked meals when I was away. All right? And I didn't say, oh, you know, wow, well, that was just what I did, right? I traveled. My family had to eat. It was my job, in my mind, to feed them. So Sunday nights, Sunday was the day from hell. I would spend all day cooking. But I left, not with a guilty conscience, with love in my heart, as I set off for the week, and the refrigerator was full of food. I also embraced technology early, right from the very beginning, as a way to help me get more things done. And I did a really good job of making my bosses understand what I could and could not do. And again, it's, you know, for some of you younger women, it would be hard for you to imagine business in the 80s, but still women kind of trying to do their thing, right? People weren't too receptive to anything you wanted to do. Have you ever worked for a boss without time management skills? Yeah, all right. Yeah. So if a meeting's going to schedule, the meeting is scheduled from 3 to 4, then I talk to the person running the meeting, and I used to do this. Talk to the person running the meeting, and I tell them that I have to leave at 4:30 to pick up my children. And I say, if the meeting runs late, because they always did then, right? I'm just going to get up and leave. And they would look at me. And I don't think they knew what to say. And invariably, these meetings would run past whatever time they scheduled. You know, meeting at 2 to 4? It's 4:25. I would pick up my little bag, just trot on out. No apologies, no wave, just because that's what I did. So back when I did it, it was kind of unheard of. Now there's this thing called you work for companies and they really do value that. But a lot of you work for small companies. So, you know, life balance and trying to juggle everything is always a challenge. We're going to get to the strategies in a minute. 6 years ago, because I don't have enough adventure in my life, I took on a new assignment in the Middle East. I landed in Dubai after a 15-hour flight. This was my first trip, and found my luggage had not made the trip with me. I had the clothes on my back, luckily my makeup, and my laptop. A full day schedule awaited me on a time zone which was 8 hours ahead of my Eastern Standard Time body. Has anyone been to the Middle East?
To Asia.
You've been to Asia, okay. Middle East is its own little thing. So it was a challenge to feel engaged. You know, here I am, suitcase doesn't make it, I'm in a land I've never seen before. For breakfast, this is a true story, I went to the hotel restaurant and asked for some cold cereal. They were able to accommodate me, which arrived with camel's milk. And so it began. I embraced the culture and the experience and soaked it up in ways I could not really appreciate until I returned back to the US. My clothes eventually arrived. I found a room to work out at a hotel, even though workouts that, you know, aren't really all that popular. And I stayed focused. In all of my subsequent trips to Dubai, I wore 2 watches on my arm. One for local time, one for time back in Massachusetts, because that allowed me to call my children on their time zone. To this day, when I travel with one watch, well, you know you're old when you wear a watch, right? You just know you're old when you wear a watch. But to this day, even when I still travel to the West Coast, I never change the time, because I always want to know what is happening with one of my children, and I want to know what their time is. So let's get to the 3 strategies which I found to be most effective. And a point worth noting here, what works for me may not have worked for you, may not work for you. So I just offer it in the unique capacity to share what worked for me. So strategy number 1, I call it show up fully engaged. And learn to manage your time, your energy as well as your time. This was a big aha to me. You life coaches, this isn't a big aha. I learned that the key was to draw on 4 separate but related sources of energy for me. Physical energy, emotional energy, mental focus, and spiritual alignment, or a clear sense of purpose, however you want to call that. If I was to get through my long days, I had to have energy. I learned to exercise until it became a habit, which gave me the physical stamina to put in long hours and have my body support me, as I call it. Growing up, in my family, exercise was never my friend. Nobody in my family exercised. But by my late 20s, exercise became a game changer to me, an absolute game changer. And it's essential today. Exercise is the one thing that helps with my balance, because it just provides the yin and the yang for me. Exercise gave me better focus 7 days a week. And by exercise, I don't mean that I ran 5 miles every day. I started off walking, and then I learned to run. I hit the gym, I took up weight training, I bought a bike. In the summer, I like to swim. I kayak, I tried rollerblading. But I truly hit the jackpot when I discovered yoga. So for those of you who don't know yoga, hopefully you'll discover it sometime in your life. And for me, I discovered plain old vanilla yoga, which taught me to live in the moment. When you are doing yoga, you focus on yoga, not your daily to-do list. And I emerged relaxed, refreshed, and ready to assume my 4 roles again. Working mothers never have weekends off, right? Do we have weekends off? Of course we don't have weekends off. The activity list simply changes. I found that something is better than nothing. And when it comes to exercise, even if I could only get a 15-minute walk in, That's a good thing, because all days you don't have time to exercise. But I can always find 15 minutes. Something is better than nothing. So under Show Up Fully Engaged, I needed a daily emotional connection, and for me it was to my family. Wherever I was in the world, I spoke to both of my kids on their time zone and listened to their daily drama. That was an emotional need of mine. They felt better, but I really felt better because I travel so much. Each and every day talking to my children grounded me. Now I don't do that anymore because they're kind of grown and I miss it. But that was as much about me as it was about them. When we talk about living in the moment, which is another one of those happy platitudes, we are always speaking about savoring the now, neither looking forward nor looking back. Some people refer to that process as flow, being completely engaged in a process. And if you can't remember the last time you felt flow, it's time to create some flow, right? So for me, work was my flow, but I also can get flow swimming in the ocean, doing power yoga, reading a book, or spending time with friends. I had a friend come up for the weekend from Boston, unplanned. We had the best time. Oh my God, I giggled like I was 15. I said to myself, I need to do that more. It's been a long time since well, I'll tell you a little about it later. She came up, so my husband's there, right? And I never watch TV. But based on our house, we have one big couch, which I'm never there. I'm always in my office reading, working, doing something I want to do. So he's watching something. So we go into this big couch, and the two of us have our iPads. And we're laughing and giggling and looking stuff up. This went on for hours Saturday night. I can't tell you what fun this was. So Sunday she says to me, so what are you doing? I said, I got to give a speech Tuesday night. And she said, what are your key points? I couldn't remember anything. I was so in the flow of having a good time with a girlfriend. She said, well, what are you talking about? I go, I don't know. I'd have to get my speech. She says, I can't believe you can't tell me. I said, well, there's 3 Ps. She said, what are they? I said, well, I can tell you that because I do that. Well, what are your strategies? I said, wait a minute, let me go get it. So the point was, I was focused on being in the flow. And flow is when you forget about time. And the best kind of flow is when you nourish your soul, which sometimes can be known as spiritual alignment. Sometimes your purpose consists of putting one foot in front of the other and just getting all the daily drivel done. Purpose is not always a big rainbow of objectives. Sometimes it's just getting the little things done with amazing efficiency, right? It's not like, I stalk the day with great purpose. No, I get things done in an efficient way with a smile on my face. Not always, but mostly. Showing up fully engaged means your feet hit the ground running every day. And some people do that literally. I don't know if we have anyone here who runs at 5 a.m., but I know a woman who runs at 5 a.m. To others, I know people who start their day with a morning meditation. I know another woman who's a client who actually journals every morning. That's how she starts her day. A fully engaged day means you have a plan and the stamina to juggle all the balls that are going to be required of you for that particular day, which leads me, So what was the first strategy? Show up fully engaged. Now we're already on to number 2. Number 2, become a life hack. So if you're hearing this term for the first time, let me tell you what a life hack is. Some of you are smiling because you know. Life hack is another word for get organized. But the definition of a life hack is to make one's day more efficient. It was originally a programming term, meaning to cut through the info overload. So I consider myself a life hack. I'm pretty darn organized. And all of you, to get through your days, I'm sure you are too. But being productive isn't about which tools or which app or whatever you're using. Enhancing your productivity is about having a set of things that work for you and being comfortable using them. What is your task manager? When I started in the business world, I used to walk around with a steno book and I just wrote everything, all my to-do list and whatever. Now I have an iPhone, right? So I have many places, but I still write everything down. I still have a book where I write my daily to-do list. How many of you write a daily to-do list? My kind of women. You know what? People who write things down get more done, right? You know that. Nowadays, we have Evernote, remember the milk, you know, right? We have Siri. We can just tell Siri what we forgot, and she'll remind us later, and that's all good. Under Be a Life Hack, set boundaries. Set and keep timelines to get things done. Block off times to get your to-do list accomplished. Ditch the distractions. That's hard to do. Don't answer the phone and don't look each time a new email hits your box. Disable that, right? You don't have to hear ping every time you need an email, and you don't need to check Facebook every 15 minutes. You don't. You just don't. So, you know when to say no. So I'm going to give you an example. This happened 2 weeks ago. It's all about balance still. So I come back from a long day of counseling, because counseling's work. You know, it's fun, but it's work. I come home tired and stressed, and I need to exercise. Because if my day started early, I wasn't the one anymore that's up at 5 a.m. Those days, I'm not up at 5. So I throw on my sneakers, and I set out for my what I call it my hard walk. This is something is better than nothing, and I'm going to get 30, 40 minutes of a walk in. Coming down the street is my friend, whom I see on occasion, and she's walking her dog. She asked me to join her, and the guilty voice in my head might say, okay, because she probably needs someone to talk to, and I know she does. Instead, here's what I say. I'm walking to the beach and back for exercise, and you're welcome to join me. She declines, and I'm on my way. Now, some of you may say, well, gee, isn't that kind of selfish? It may be, but right then, I need the gift of exercise more than I need the gift of socialization. And I've walked with this woman before, and she meanders with her dog. So I come back from a walk with this woman. She feels wonderful. It's therapy for her. She knows what I do. I'm a score counselor. So, and meanwhile, we've talked to every dog in the neighborhood. And I'm like, so I can't do that. So in order for me to stay fully engaged through bedtime, I need to walk. End of story, end of guilt. Or how about the fact that your cell phone is ringing and you don't have time to talk, but what do? You answer it anyway. And what happens? Inwardly, you're fuming, right? You're fuming. As the person on the other end of the phone is going, wah, wah, wah. Solution, don't answer the phone. Let it go to voicemail. Unless it's your children, right? I always, even now, phone rings, one of my kids, I pick it up. Never let other people's timelines screw up yours. That's not being selfish, that's being smart. Set realistic deadlines and expectations. Don't agree to do something and then get all stressed out because you didn't put on your big girl pants and say no. No. It's okay to say no. You get to choose what you will and you won't do, and it's okay to say no. Use a calendar. In fact, use many calendars, right? I remember in the family, when the kids were there, we had a big calendar for the family, and then there's my calendar, then there's your work calendar, and maybe it's all virtual now, but it doesn't matter. You're always juggling calendars. And then consider a journal and capture thoughts. You know, that's kind of under the life hack thing. Consider a journal, capture your thoughts. I have a daughter and she's a heck of a worrier. Worry, worry, worry. I convinced her to get a piece of paper and I call it, write your worry list before you go to bed. If you don't write it down, what happens when you hit the bed? You're laying there, eyes open, right? Going through your worry list. So sometimes that's effective. The last strategy is take care of you, capital Y-O-U. Your goal is to spend and renew energy, and self-care is critical, right? Where are my wellness coaches? Self-care is critical. We are the doers, and it's vital that we take care of ourselves, because if we don't, who will? Who will? We're so busy taking care of everyone else's needs, we're neglecting our own. We can't do that. Your sense of self-worth is important, you matter, and you need to schedule your time for renewal. And I say, if not now, when? Taking care of yourself means putting your needs on the daily calendar. Schedule me time every day. Me time can mean, for me, in a busy day, I leave the SCORE office and I walk down to Starbucks. I get my coffee or the bar, you know, depending on the day and how long the lines are. And then I walk back to SCORE. That might be my me time. But it's me. I'm not talking to anybody. Head's clear, sun's shining, or it's raining. Doesn't matter. It's me time. And whether it means getting up before the family to exercise, taking a walk at lunch to clear your head, scheduling some quiet time before bed, journaling, reading, whatever your thing is, schedule your me time. The mind and the body are one, and if you don't invest in yourself, you won't be fully engaged. Now I'll tell you your three best friends, my three best friends. I don't know if they're yours. Sleep, exercise, and a healthy diet. Wham, wham, wham. But you know what? It's true. I learned that all three of them essential for me to get through my days with a sense of humor. As I told you, once I embraced yoga, my world changed. But when I moved to Maine, I tried something called power yoga. So do you know what power yoga is? Okay. So for those that don't know what power yoga, it's taking all the goodness of yoga but making it a cardio workout. So now it's pain, right? You sweat like an animal. It's wonderful. You walk out of there, you don't have any thoughts, and that's the point. You know, so be open to new physical experiences. You know, I tried Bikram yoga, right? That's not for me. That's just too hot, right? Might work for you, too hot for me. Power yoga, that's okay. Like it. But never forget the power of a brisk walk. You don't have to pay money. Just get outside. Exercise is the key. If you exercise, you'll eat better. If you eat better and exercise, you'll sleep better. I guarantee it. Under the banner of taking care of you, I'll also mention that I think it's really important to have a trusty friend or two. And that's another woman who will listen to you. And that's an investment in your mental health. But I must tell you, I didn't have a lot of time for my friends in my 30s and my 40s. But my college roommate has been my forever friend, and she and I connect when we have time. You may already have a group of like-minded friends and do girls' nights out, and that's the best thing you can do. All part of taking care of you. Never feel guilty. Girls' night out is the way to go. So that's my three strategies. Show up fully engaged, become a life hack, and take care of you. All right, now the 3 Ps. The 3 Ps, I don't know, I must have gone to a workshop one time in my corporate life and heard this and made it personal. So it's priorities, perspective, and passion. Priorities. So you know you can't do it all, right? You do know that. Look at the big picture for the day and what needs to be accomplished in the next 18 hours. Most days I can only effectively focus on 2 of my 4 roles. And that's okay. That's what I focus. That's what I choose. I make my priorities. I make a daily plan. I write it down. You write it down, and off we go. So that's priorities. Perspective. You all know it's not that important, right? We all take ourselves way too seriously. So here's my story from the 4th grade. I remember this so clearly. I recall baking cupcakes for my son's 4th grade classroom holiday party. And of course, mine were homemade from scratch with buttercream frosting. And what did the kids go to first? The store-bought red and garish green cupcakes from Stop and Shop. That's what they went to. That mom looked relaxed and enjoyed the party. I was concerned with the perfect cupcakes. So what's the lesson? It's the kids, silly, and they'll eat anything. So we don't have to be perfect at everything, only some things. Perfect is only for Martha Stewart, not us. Right?
Only for Martha. Passion. What lights you up? How about your family? I always was a good cook. So tonight, why not make homemade chicken pot pie from scratch? Because I don't have time, it's not a priority, and the kids love mac and cheese. Why would I be even contemplating making homemade chicken pie? Because that's my passion. It was cooking. That got drilled out of me after cooking for 30 years. So I would suggest you throw your passion into a Zumba class, 15 minutes around the block, when the kids are doing their homework, you know, whatever your passion is, whatever it is that gives you the strength to get it all done. Trust me on this.
you need to do something for yourself that involves some passion for you. So when my kids were in high school, I had had enough. Juggling, working, traveling, pencils in my eyes. I truly needed to get away, and I share this story with you. My me time was in short supply, and it felt like I was meeting everyone's needs but my own. So I did something fairly radical. I booked myself for a 7-day whitewater rafting trip in Utah. I flew to Salt Lake City. I rented a car, and I felt like Thelma without Louise as I drove to Moab. I had all kinds of gear, all packed in a dry bag. Not that I knew what a dry bag was. I boarded a 4-person sky plane, and I set off and was dropped on a plateau to begin our adventure. Did I mention that I had never camped outdoors before? I joined 18 other women that I didn't know from all over the U.S., and off we went in a bunch of inflatable rafts with 4 guides, all women. I clearly recall my first night after paddling all day, and we were on the Green River, which is the sister to the Colorado, and it's a very fast river. And you know, I'm an overachiever, right? So when I'm out there paddling, I mean, you know, even though it's the first day, why not paddle like you're gonna, you know, you have to show them that you can paddle. So we pull into camp, and I can barely lift my arms, and I could not figure out how to put up my tent. Finally, I sat down and cried. That's what an overachiever does. She sits down and cries. And some other woman came over and helped me out. And then they said, you know, we're all going to get together and kind of share stories and sing. I looked at them. I did not want to sing Kumbaya with my fellow rafters, so I crawled into my tent and I went to sleep. In the morning, I awoke to the sound of the rushing river and the sun just coming over the cliffs. I climbed out of my tent. I stood alone in the wilderness because no one was up that early, and I breathed it all in, and I never looked back. For 7 straight days, I lived in the moment. Fact. Neither looking back nor looking forward, not thinking of my kids or anything. I didn't think about anybody. I lived in the moment. Each morning I drank cowboy coffee, which means they just throw coffee in the water, and then they pour it in the cup, and you're just supposed to drink the top and not get any of the garbage in your mouth. But hey, it was good. Every day we stayed at a different spot. We packed up our gear and moved down the river. And every day I tested my limits paddling. We laughed, we worked hard. At the end of the day, I stripped down naked and washed in the river. Every night, laying on the sand, looking up at the stars through my tent was indescribable. I came home with a whole new perspective on life, and that's a fact. And you know what? The family survived in my absence. They fed themselves. They managed to find clean clothes. Dad was in charge, so that probably felt like an adventure to the children that Dad was in charge. Twice more I signed up for my amazing river trips, and I bought my own LL Bean tent that I finally learned to assemble with ease. What's the point of the story? Sometimes we forget that nature offers us the best life balance we can imagine, and I would challenge you to find your own eat, love, pray trip that will change your life. By now, I hope you've gotten some inspiration and focus on 1 or 2 strategies. Think about you can incorporate the 3 Ps into your life. And give yourself permission to let yourself off the hook for perfection and just enjoy being good enough. Which brings me to my 9 tips, or as Oprah says, a few things that I know for sure. Number 1, lighten up. Unless it's life or death, don't put yourself in a fight or flight state of mind on a daily basis. It's a recipe for a stroke or a heart attack. 2, taking care of yourself is a simple act with profound consequences. Really is. 3, get moving every day. Exercise really does give you energy to look and feel better. I'm 82. Isn't that amazing? Just kidding. Eat right. A day of M&Ms and soda is not considered nourishment, right? It's just not. Stop fooling yourself if that's what passes for food. Drop stuff that doesn't matter. Life is too short. We try and focus on everything. Drop it. Drop stuff that doesn't matter. Build in downtime before bedtime. Sleep really matters. Learn to let go. You don't have to be perfect, and neither does your house, and neither do your children. Be nice. Compassion and empathy matter. Finally, 9, don't confuse being alone with being lonely. Learn how to enjoy your own company. I want to end with a short piece called, and I got to read this, so I got to really read it because these aren't my words. It's called Give Yourself a Break by Melanie Beattie. She has a book out. Life coaches are nodding, they've heard of her. And here's how it goes. Learn to appreciate yourself and others. Knowing we desire growth and improvement is one thing. Constantly driving ourselves and others is another. Maybe the answer isn't that we need to do better, try harder, push more. Maybe the answer is recognizing and appreciating how well we already do things, how hard we try, how much we have done, how well others are doing too. Pushing ourselves becomes so habitual that we deny ourselves the satisfaction of having any feelings. No matter how well or how much we do, the urge to try harder, do better, do more keeps pushing us on. It doesn't let us rest. We still feel it isn't quite good enough. If you have been pushing yourself too hard, you may need more than a coffee break. Take a real break. Give yourself permission to put that drive aside. Quiet that part of you that wants to do more, be more, accomplish more. Learn to value how well you do things, even if no one appreciates your efforts. For today and 1 week, instead of demanding more from yourself, tell yourself how well you have done. So that's it. My recipe for finding balance in an overscheduled life. Thank you.